rated T to M. Hey, want to hear a PC Game Pass ad? I'll take your silence as a yes. Want new games on day one like Call of Duty Black Ops 6 or Stalker 2? I thought so. How about unlocking all the League of Legends champions when you link your Riot Games account? All for one low monthly price? Well, guess what? We got you. Learn more at xbox.com/PC Game Pass or click the banner. Stalker 2 available November 20th, 2024. Game catalog varies by region and over time. And that's the end of the script.
77 WABC. This is Sid and Friends in the Morning.
No, I get by with a little help from my friends.
Keep being President Trump, because that's good enough to win every time. And thank you so much for hopping on with me again today. I love you, pal.
And Sid, make sure we win New York, please, okay? You have a lot of people listening to this crazy show. You have a lot of people. I don't even think you know it, but you have a lot of people. Will you please make sure that we win New York, okay? I'll put you in charge indirectly, all right?
Today is gonna be the day that they're gonna throw it back to you. By now, you should have somehow realized what you gotta do. I don't believe that anybody feels the way I do about you now. Backbeat, the word is on the street that the fire in your heart is out. I'm sure you've heard it all before, but you never really had a doubt. I don't believe that anybody feels the way I do about you now. And all the roads we have to walk are winding, and all the lights that lead us there are blinding. There are many things that I would like to say to you, but I don't know how. Because maybe you're gonna be the one that saves me. And after all, you're my wonderwall.
Oasis, Wonderwall, 7:53, rainy Wednesday morning. So I haven't seen this Punim in like 4 years. The last time this young lady was in my studios, my partner was still alive, God rest his soul, Bernard. We were Bernie and Sid at that point. We are now the number one rated Sid and Friends in the morning, but her name is Allison Josephs. And back then, she went by Jew in the City. This is many years before October the 7th, and even then we were talking about anti-Semitism and all the issues here in New York City. Again, prior to October 7th of 2023, I'm actually kind of surprised. It's probably my fault. We haven't talked since that day because I do so much, and I'm sure you're aware of all of it. Anyway, welcome back, Miss Jew in the City. How are you?
I'm doing well. So great to be back here.
Are you still a Jew in the City? You still go by that moniker?
I do, but we also added another element to our nonprofit. We got into Hollywood in the years that we haven't met, so we took our name JITC, and we have a second meaning now for Jewish Institute for Television and Cinema.
Wow. And that is part of the motivation why you're here today is Jews on TV, Jews in movies, what's going on with that. You showed me some statistics where a lot of people, a lot of characters, Jewish characters, aren't even played by Jewish people. And I guess that speaks to anti-Semitism. I'm not sure. Is that basically the motivation behind today's appearance?
So the motivation behind today's appearance is a new study that we did in conjunction with the Norman Lear Center at USC. What we've been up to since I was on the show last is we found out that every minority group but Jews has been advocating in Hollywood for decades for better representation. So our organization, Jew in the City, I took to social media starting in 2005 because I was bothered by how Orthodox Jews were being represented on television. I was not raised observant. I actually judged them myself, just like you did, which is why you brought me onto the show the first time.
Right.
Because you were making some comments that were not so amazing, and I came on to explain some of the prayers.
By the way, I still make the same comments.
Well, I have to be watching you better.
No, just so you know, I mean, like, and this has nothing to do with you. I'm speaking of myself. Like, I don't even talk to Jewish Democrats. They're not Jews as far as I'm concerned. You vote for a party that does business with Iran. You vote for a party that basically for the last 14 months is telling everybody how bad a guy Bibi Netanyahu is and doing nothing to help out the Israelis. I don't even consider Democrat Jews Jews at this point. So whatever you tried to convince me of years ago clearly didn't work. In fact, I'm more angry today. But you're interesting because you were not Orthodox. Now you are.
Correct. Right. And just to clarify, I'm not here to talk about politics. I was talking about Orthodox Jews, but yes, I say
back then? Did they ruin the country? I said they went to the mountains and they put all the hotels out of business. They put a sign that said Beit HaMidrash outside their bungalow colony and nobody paid taxes.
You didn't like one of the prayers that you had heard about, and so one of your listeners was like, "Bring Jew in the City on." So that's how you got me on originally.
All right.
And in terms of my own personal story, so I was raised right outside of Manhattan. And my earliest memories were my father coming home after treating his Hasidic patients and telling us they're dirty, they're smelly, they're ignorant, they can't speak English.
Your dad said that?
My dad said that.
And he's Jewish.
Yes. So we were proud Jews, but it was like, we're Jewish, but not that kind of Jewish.
Yeah.
That's the wrong kind of Jewish.
Yeah.
The fast version of the story is that when I was 8 in public school, a father in my school had a mental breakdown, killed both of his kids and himself. And I was basically launched into an existential crisis at all of 8 years old. And I asked my parents why we're here, and they just stared back at me. And so I tried to not think about the fact that I had thought about the fact that I don't know why I'm alive. And that thought kept on coming up. And after about 7 years of off and on insomnia and panic attacks, I met an Orthodox teacher at an after-school Hebrew high. And all the things that I had heard from my father and from media was nothing like this person was in real life.
Sure.
And I started to become more observant, and I started to engage in my traditions in a meaningful way as opposed to just judging them.
How did your parents feel about that?
Well, my mother had like a religious grandmother and grandfather, Bubba and Zeta, she called them. So she had certain feelings of like, let's do more. And every so often she'd be like, kids, let's keep kosher. And we'd be like, what does that mean? And she's like, you can't have this, you can't have that. And we're like, that's the worst idea ever. We love our bacon cheeseburgers.
Right.
But she did have a certain like pull spiritually from kind of like where her grandparents came from. My father's family's been here since the 1800s, and he thought that I was ruining my life and the life of his unborn grandchildren. And so I approached him at all of 16, and I said, if you think I've joined a cult, then you need to learn something in order to stop me. So educate yourself, come for Shabbos where I go, learn Torah like I learn, and then from the inside out, you can debate me about how bad this is. He didn't want to learn, and he finally realized that he can't argue from a point of ignorance. So in order to spite me, he began to learn Torah. What a Jewish thing to do.
So now he's like the shamus of the shul?
So then after about a year of study, he was almost 50 years old. He said, you were right and I was wrong, and now it's time to play catch up. So he and my mother and both of my sisters all became observant, and they all live in Israel now.
No kidding. This is an unbelievable story.
You got to bring me on more often.
Yes. Where in Israel are they?
So we got one outside of Tel Aviv. We got one in the Beit Shemesh area. I have 2 kids. I have 2 daughters that live in Jerusalem now. So my grandparents have 12 Orthodox grandkids in Israel. We've got the last 2 here in America. We're planning to be there as well. And yes, in terms of the state of
just so you know, I've been to Israel twice since October 7th of 2023. There's a huge dinner coming up next Thursday night, the 19th. The organization that keeps sending me, they pay for everything, is the One Israel Fund. We got a huge dinner. Michael Rappaport's going to host it. Nate Buzz is going to be there, the son of Hamas. They're actually honoring me and my wife. So I've gone back to places like State Oath this year, October 7th, to commemorate the 1 year of those vicious attacks. So I've become very pro-Israel in the fact that I go.
Awesome.
Not the people here in Brooklyn and Staten Island who go, I love Israel. They never gone. I'm going out at least twice a year. So when you tell me this story, it's unbelievable. It's a beautiful story.
Thank you. And I guess what I want to say about sort of where Jewish tradition and judgment comes from, and also all the anti-Israel news that we see, I learned something from a historian in the last couple of years, which is that When we lived in Europe as Jews, although we are now called white European colonial oppressors, when we lived in Europe back in the shtetl, we were not considered Europe. We were second-class citizens. We were relegated to ghettos, and we couldn't intermix with non-Jewish culture. When we were finally emancipated from the ghetto, Napoleon gave a conditional emancipation to the Jews. And what he told them was, tamp down on the connection to your heritage, tamp down on the connection to your land, and then we'll give you access to Gentile spaces.
Right.
And if you look today at how Jews self-censor, we don't want to be too Jewish in public spaces. We don't want to be too Zionistic in public spaces. And I'm going to give you a test to show you how bad this is.
See, I'm not like that, just so you know.
I know you're not.
I got my chest wide open. I wear 2-3 chains on any given day. I'm almost inviting one of these pro-Hamas animals to say something to me, or even a Jew to say something to me. But you're right. Overall, you got Jewish people taking off yarmulkes in the street. They're hiding their tzitzis. They want nobody to know they're Jewish. We got to stop that.
It's horrible. It's horrible. What I will say, if you think about sort of bad words to call a Jew, it used to be that the worst thing to say about a Jew was to be Orthodox. Now I would say to be a Zionist is even worse. And then Hasidic is even worse than that. And then a settler is even worse than that. Meaning the less that we're specifically Jewish, the kind of more kosher we are in non-Jewish spaces, the more we lean into those specifically Jewish things around our heritage and our land, the worse kind of Jew that we are. And our message behind Jew in the city is that our ancestors said after the Enlightenment, be a Jew in the home, but not on the street. Erase that part of yourself. We're in an age now where everybody is leaning into their identity and they're proud and they're out, and we still have Jews that are censoring. And we're saying, be a Jew in the city. Bring your full Jewish identity everywhere you go.
I love that. That is a great message. Allison Joseph's very proud and courageous young lady, Jew in the city. Part of our problem is, too, as you point out with this latest study you guys are doing, is the media. I mean, the media is absolutely killing us. They really have been since October. You can't go anywhere. You really can't watch anything outside of my guy, President Trump, and Bibi Netanyahu and others, where they're pro-Israel, pro-Jewish. The media is killing us.
So what I would say the challenge is that people think that Jews run the media. People think that Jews run Hollywood. And so we have to sort of correct some things. Jews founded Hollywood over 100 years ago because other industries were shutting them out due to anti-Semitism. And they went to Hollywood to build an empire of their own, as historian Neil Gabler, called his book. But what they did was to run from anti-Semitism. They thought they could do that by erasing themselves. They changed their names to sound non-Jewish. They all assimilated and intermarried. And the idea was we can finally sort of, take off all those negative associations about being Jewish if we just become American and leave our Judaism behind. And so those messages have been built into Hollywood from the very beginning. And so some of the tropes that we found in our study, or some of the problems that we found in the study, was a Jewishness that was a hidden identity. Not so many Jews willing to speak about being Jewish on the screen. We measured 108 characters in this study with the Norman Lear Center.
These are fictional characters?
These are fictional characters.
Yeah.
The study looked at scripted U.S. television characters from 21 to 22. Only 18% of the characters even reference being Jewish. And the researchers did not discern shame, but they also didn't discern any Jewish pride. And again, when we're in an age now where we're being told that, all these other identities should be celebrated, why can't we have Jewish pride as well?
I do a little acting these days.
Really?
Yes. I've been in a couple of movies. One about the very famous mob bar, the Gemini Lounge in Brooklyn. And I'm on this series. It's called Gravesend. It's a mob series, 1985 mob, Brooklyn. The music, the dress, all that dates back to those years. And I play a mobster there, too. I've now been in 3 different movies and TV shows, and I'm taping Gravesend now, and I play a mobster every time. And as you're talking to me, I'm going, what am I doing? Enough with the Italian mobster stuff. I should just play a Jewish guy.
You should play a proud Jew, Sid. And this is what we're trying to encourage creatives to do. There's nothing wrong if you feature a Shabbat dinner, like one of our shows that we studied, The Patient. It was a show starring Steve Carell.
I saw that show.
Okay, so it was a pretty dark show.
Yeah.
But the showrunners, Joel Fields and Joe Weisberg, lovely men, and we just actually honored them at our Jewish Media Awards at Lincoln Center a few weeks ago. And every other group, by the way, does NAACP Image Awards, GLAAD Media Awards. No one ever did this for the Jews before.
That's where I met you the first time, I think.
Yes, exactly.
You gave an award to Dove Kramer that night. You believe that, Lou Rapino? Dove Kramer from WFAN. This is dating back like 5 years ago. It was a gorgeous event.
Thank you. We just had another gorgeous event. I tried to get get you to come as well, but you were very busy. There's a lot of stuff going on. But anyway, what they put in this show, they put this beautiful Shabbat dinner, and people are sitting around the table just having casual banter like a family does. And then they said the grace after meals, and the candles were flickering, and it was just such a happy Jewish moment. And it wasn't hitting you over the head. It was just Jews being Jews organically and loving their identity.
Now, what about this show that was so popular, The Marvelous Miss Maisel? That was, I mean, I watched some of that. That came off pretty Jewish, no? Or no?
So this is where we start to dig into those issues about, within the study, they found that around half of the characters were played by confirmed Jews. And in other standards, people were seeing this push towards authentic casting. And should Jews also get authentic casting?
I mean, the star of that show, the same guy that played Monk, Tony
Shalhoub.
He's not Jewish.
He's not Jewish.
No.
Midge is not Jewish. Her mother's not Jewish.
Wow.
A lot of non-Jews in the show. And so I think what some people fear about this is that if we're talking about authentic casting for everybody else, why not for Jews? We're not just a religion.
I'm Jewish and I play an Italian, so we got one back there. There you go.
No, right. So although Jews and Italians are very ethnically connected, we are connected because when we were colonized 2,000 years ago, we were brought to Rome on slave ships. And so another point that I would like to make is that being Jewish is not a religion. We are an ethnic group with a varied spiritual practice that not all Jews observe. We are from the land of Judea. We have a shared history, culture, language, and we should be seen as an ethnic group that also has a spiritual practice, just like a Native American tribe, an ethnic group with a spiritual practice.
You mentioned Judea, the One Israel Fund, which I told you about, which is honoring me and my wife next Thursday. Their big message is they want sovereignty in Judea and Samaria. And you know that the non-Jews, the Goyim out there, they refer to Judea and Samaria as the West Bank, which I have to tell you is very insulting to me. They don't want to say Judea because that's where you get Jew from, Judea. It is not the West Bank. It is Judea and Samaria. And much like the Golan Heights, now we've got sovereignty there. We're going to have that in Judea and Samaria one day as well.
What I'll tell you is that in terms of Jewish education, we don't even know the word for Jew in Hebrew, your average Jew. I grew up, I didn't know how to say Jew in Hebrew.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you know how to say it now?
I do.
Do I?
I don't think so.
Nope.
Look at that. Is that crazy?
That is crazy. I didn't realize there was a word for Jew in Hebrew.
Yehudi, and it comes from Yehuda, from Judea.
Yeah.
And this is what happened. We ended up having as our identity Ashkenaz and Sephardic. So those were the two major countries that sort of Jews got exiled to and built these big societies in, Germany and Spain. And those were the two places where we were decimated and massacred in the most sincere ways. So we forgot the land that we come from. We don't even know why we're called Jews. We need to do more Jewish education. We need to know who we are and where we come from. We know who Jesus' mother is. Who is she?
Mary.
Who's Moses' mother?
I'm going to go with Naomi.
Yocheved.
Oh,
we don't
my
know.
second choice.
We don't know.
You're right.
Our own. And I was the same exact way. When I started to take an interest in my heritage and culture, I began to learn these things. And I realized that we're an educated people and about our own traditions and history we don't know. So what we're doing now, the reason that we're very excited about what we're doing in Hollywood with our Jewish Institute of Television and Cinema, we repurposed JITC, is that other groups that came before us have mechanisms for making representation better. And as you're saying, media is really knocking Jews over the head right now in every way. For the first time since October 7th, I realized it's worse to be a supporter of Israel than it is to be a supporter of Torah.
True.
Because as a supporter of Israel, we're called, bloodthirsty baby killers. And as an Orthodox woman, I'm just called subjugated. So I think that's not as bad. But the reality is that within the advocacy work that other Hollywood bureaus are doing, there are opportunities like showrunner trainings where you train the creatives about what pitfalls to not step into and how to tell different types of stories with more authentic characters and proud storylines. There's fact sheets that we've built. There's basically mechanisms where you can educate the people that tell the stories to say, don't do that same nebbish character. Don't do that same overbearing mother. And we detected, elements of that in our study. And instead, just show a Jew who's living his life and is proud of his identity. And then we'll just be. And what we think could happen is that when Jews see themselves proud on the screen, it will help them feel better about who they are. We have thousands of years of discrimination. So many of us have internalized shame and hatred. Why do we have to always apologize for who we are? You know, you mentioned Michael Rappaport. He's been putting on tefillin now for several months.
Yes.
He's posting pictures of that. That's such a bold thing to do.
I actually took him to Israel last time.
I
took
love
him
it.
with me. Yeah.
I love it. Why does it have to be so groundbreaking? It is, but why does it have to be so groundbreaking for us to just do our own traditions and say, I'm not going to apologize. I'm proud of who I am and where I come from. That doesn't mean there aren't challenging things of the Torah. It doesn't mean that every Jewish person behaves perfectly. What it means is that I come from a people that I love and I'm proud of, and I want to get to see positive representation or authentic representation on the big screen like every other group is demanding.
What a tremendous job out of you. My God. Where can, I got to wrap this up, where can people find out more, help out? Where can they do all that?
Okay, so JewInTheCity.com is our website. JITCHollywoodBureau.org is our Hollywood Bureau website. If you go to our social channels, you see we posted the study recently, and we're posting updates about the work that we're doing. We feel really hopeful about being able to make a positive change because we can't just measure anti-Semitism and we can't only do lawsuits. We need to change how people think, and television and film gives us the tools to do that.
You will be back more often. This was great. I mean, you were really, really great. It's important stuff. And you're a wonderful speaker, too. You know that already. So we'll be bringing you back a lot more often. Thank you so much for coming in today.
Thanks for having me on.
What a great job right there, folks. Allison Joseph's Jew in the City. And as I just said, she'll be back a heck of a lot more often.